Hey guys, welcome to the prop shop. We're going to turn pieces of foam like this into this. Now, I don't know if you guys could tell, but this week we're going to be making a helmet. Now, the helmet comes from, God, who's that guy? I can't remember.
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Yeah, that's him, Tony Stark. Now, all the patterns we're going to be using today are going to be in the description below, so grab them for yourself and follow along. But before you do that, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and we're going to get to it. I think this doesn't happen in the movies. Let's go. So before I did any type of foam work whatsoever, I did a bit of prototyping. Now, I took my patterns, put them onto some cardboard, because I have a ton of that, and I cut it all out, taped it up, just to see how it's going to fit. I didn't want to put any of my patterns onto foam, chance screwing it up, and then, you know, if I screw it up on the foam, I'm kind of beat after that. So I didn't want to do that, and I ended up with these two things. I printed them out at different percentages. This is 110%, and we're going to see how it fits. Alright, so this one is a little bit too big, I think. A little too big, not proportionate enough. So we're going to go a size down. And the good thing about prototyping, putting on some cardboard, is when I'm done, and I don't need this, this is kind of trash. I don't need it. But I have another one. 105%. Now, let's see how this one fits. Alright, this is the one I think I'm going to go with. It fits a little bit better. Back of my head's kind of nice and snug. I didn't need to do a faceplate just because I don't need a faceplate to see how my face is going to fit. So we're going to use this percentage, and we're going to write to some foam and start cutting it out. Now that I have everything traced out on some 6mm EVA craft foam, it's time to start cutting everything out. Now, the pattern I'm going to be using today, I found on Etsy. I'm going to leave a link to the shop in the description box below. The pattern is really easy to follow, and honestly, it tells you exactly what to do. Where to cut the inward angles, where to cut the outward angles, where to bevel, where to not bevel, and as long as you have a sharp knife, this should be a super easy thing to cut out for you. Right here for the top of the faceplate, we're going to go ahead and cut a little bit of a V-groove in there. Now, we're not going to cut all the way through, and we're going to cut both sides at a little bit of an angle. This is just so when we bend it, it's actually going to meet up pretty well and make a nice little design on the outside. Now that we have all of our pieces cut out, we're going to go with the rotary tool and soften some of the edges out. You can look a little closely here. I don't know if you can see it on my camera, but some of the edges are a little bit jagged. We're going to go ahead and soften some of that with some of our stone grinding bits. I think I have a bunch of them. I think this guy's going to get the job done. So what we're going to do here, like I said before, is start softening out all the edges with our stone grinding bit. Now what I mean by that is when you use the stone grinding bit, it's going to be a little bit less harsh on the foam. It's almost like taking a really fine piece of sandpaper and kind of going over it again, except the Dremel is going to be a lot easier than doing this by hand, which you could do, but that's going to take a long time and I don't have the patience for that. So we're just going to go ahead and use this grinding bit and soften all the edges out. Some of these we're going to be able to see, some of them not, so let's just do them all. Now that we have all of our pieces cut out and I'm sufficiently covered in white foam on my black shirt, we're going to go ahead and start forming a lot of our pieces. Now, since the head is more of a dome shape and not a flat surface that we cut everything out of, we're going to have to start bending everything, and it's going to make it into the shape that we want to. That's the one good thing about foam is it's pretty forgiving, so anything you do to it, it's going to take that shape. So if I bend a flat piece like this, it's going to stay like that and make gluing a lot easier. A few things I did off camera, I cut in some V-grooves for the chin piece. Just straight down the middle. That's going to give the front of the chin a little bit more of an angular look. And I also, on the back of the helmet, well, actually this kind of wraps around to the front of the helmet. You'll see how it all fits together. But what I did was I put a lot of lines right here where I can add all my contact cement. This is just to make sure none of the overages come, and it's going to show up on our final product. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that forming now, and yeah, after that start gluing. Let's go. Yes, it's time, and yes, you guessed it. We're going to glue everything down with some good old-fashioned contact cement. Now you could make a whole prop or do lots of things with some hot glue, or you can even use some super glue. I've seen plenty of things that were made fantastically with both of those things. I just prefer to use contact cement. It's easy enough for me to apply it to two surfaces, wait for them to dry, and stick it together. Seems pretty foolproof. Now, a wise cosplayer once told me that making props or making anything else like this is kind of like watching paint dry. Except it's glue. And it takes a while. Nobody said I couldn't use a hairdryer though, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now these pieces were all cut on a bevel, the top and the sides, to make everything come to a nice dome shape. Now that we're just applying glue, waiting for it to dry, and sticking everything together, I gotta ask you, who's your favorite Marvel character? Drop it in the comments below. Obviously, mine's definitely Iron Man. I mean, he has no real superpowers other than being a genius. You can't beat that. Now applying the bottom part to this helmet was a little tricky, so all those lines that I made before where I applied the glue, it's definitely going to come in handy. Now, take your time and just be patient with this. I kind of glued everything in section by section, as you can see, and it worked out in my favor. Now that we have the helmet all assembled, a little bit of a tight fit. Should probably cut a little bit in the back to open it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. We can go right into making the faceplate. But what I want to do is the seams that are right here, I want to make them as invisible as possible. Now in order to do that, we're going to have to seal the cracks with a little bit of this stuff. This is just Alex's fast drying spackle. It's literally the stuff you would see in the bathrooms. And what we're going to do is apply it, smooth it out with a little bit of the regular old tap water, and we're going to sand it. We're going to repeat that process until the seam is almost gone. It's not going to be 100% just because this is foam. I mean, come on here, we're not using 3D printers or anything like that. I'm not that sophisticated just yet. Just yet. So let's go ahead and get to work. So we're going to go ahead and use some of that spackle, just apply it, smooth it out, use a little bit of water, and yeah, kind of rinse and repeat a whole bunch of times till it's done. Now that we have all of our edges smoothed out with Alex Fast Dry, a little bit of standing off camera. It's pretty boring, you don't want to see that. Next thing we have to do is our faceplate. Now, faceplate is the last thing we have to do before we start to coat everything in Plasti Dip and hopefully add some magnets. Now what I'm hoping, in a perfect world, is for the magnets to sit on the top and then to attach as we can take the faceplate on and off as you want to. In a perfect world, so we'll see what happens. Now, the faceplate is going to be done in two sections. We're going to start with the bottom piece and then go to the top piece, and then ultimately glue them together. Now this is just the rinse and repeat method of gluing everything together, let them dry and stick them together. Seems pretty easy, but you know, you get the idea. Now that we have the faceplate all put together, we're going to go ahead and add our magnets in. Now we're going to add them into critical points, right about here, probably up here, maybe at the chin. We'll see how many magnets I do have. Now we're going to use these little guys right here. I don't know if you can see them well in the camera, but they're going to snap together. And hopefully that'll make the mask easy to take off and put back on. Now we're just going to go ahead and attach it with some super glue. And I think at the end of this, my fingers are going to be more super glue than skin. Let's find out. Now I'm going to go with my Dremel, poke some holes, and then super glue some magnets in there. Pretty simple. Now the magnets I'm using today are going to be the 0.25 little magnets I got at Michael's. I found them in the magnet section. Well, there's really not a magnet section, it's just where all the magnets kind of are. I mean, they're pretty simple enough to find. I'm sure you can too. Now that I have all my magnets put on, it's time for a test fit. Got the magnets on here and on the helmet. So let's hope that gluing my fingers together and becoming more super glue than human, it's all not in vain. Let's see the fit. Okay, get get a better angle right there. Here we go. Alright, that fit is amazing. That little snap sound that it made when everything comes together. Oh, such a relief. Everything's all glued in place. Little space mister right there. There you go. Alright, now time to coat this whole thing in some plasti dip after we heat seal it, and we're going to put a paint job on there. Let's do that. Now we're going to prep everything for painting by heat sealing it with a heat gun, and then sealing it up with some plasti dip. Now, these two steps aren't necessary. You could skip right to painting, but this kind of gives the whole helmet a little bit more of a desirable texture. At least I think so. We're going to go ahead and do that for the whole helmet. Move on to some plasti dip. Hey, look at me go. Oh, I'm pretty good at this. Now, we got the gold. And we're going to go for the red. Now we're going to do 3 coats of these just to make the whole helmet nice and shiny. Now we got the whole paint job done. Red for the majority of the mask, gold for the faceplate and the chin piece. Put a clear gloss over everything to make it nice and shiny. We're on to our last and final piece. We're going to do the eye lenses. Now my plan, and what I'm hoping for the mask is, I got a piece of acrylic plastic right from Lowe's, a couple bucks, and I'm going to cut it out, color it in with a permanent marker, and then hot glue it in. Now, if you can see on this plastic, you can score the lines or score the pattern that you want on and snap it off. I tried doing that. You can obviously see this isn't a straight line. So what I'm going to do is go in with my cutting wheel and cut out the piece, color it in, hot glue it in. Now hopefully that's all going to go over well. I hope. So before we go ahead and do everything, we're going to use this. And when cutting, please use this. Seeing things is on my agenda today. I'm going to continue to do that in the future, and you should too. So I'll keep this part of the video pretty short. What I did was I went in, cut it off, and took me actually a couple tries to really nail this down, but ultimately I got it done. You could see the blue and the red on the table, and I ultimately went with the blue. It looks a little bit better than the red, and I can see more out of it. So, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video, and let's check out our finished product. And now that we're all finished up, here it is, our Ironman Mark IV helmet. Now, I was so happy with the way this came out. I do intend to make the rest of the armor in future videos. Maybe it'll be ready by next summertime, springtime, whenever cons decide to open up again, when this pandemic really isn't too much of a thing anymore. And, well, added bonus, I can see out of this really well, actually. Now, I had no idea how these were going to turn out. I thought maybe I was going to have to scrap them. It was going to screw everything up, and I put the hot glue, it was going to go everywhere. I had no idea, but it turned out really, really well, and I'm super excited about it. And now my favorite feature is still those magnets. Now, again, I didn't really know how they were going to work out. I was kind of winging it. Drilling the holes with the Dremel, I could have possibly just screwed up the mask and had to start all over again. But thank God it didn't. Now, I really want to wear this, like I said, at a con. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to prance around as a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist? But that's it for me. Smash that like button, subscribe to my channel for some more future builds, and I'll see you in the next build.